I got to see this up close as a child, a thing called gephryophobia. Now, I'm not going to act like I know exactly. I've always known all my life what that is. Matter of fact, I had to look it up. Just this week, I had to look it up to see how to even pronounce it. Gephryophobia, I believe that's right. Could be wrong. I really hate when people use big words. They can really just say it real simply. What is gephryophobia? I don't know how many of us have ever heard of that before, familiar with it, but this is what it is. Gephryophobia, in its simplest form, is a fear of bridges, a fear of going over, of driving over, riding over a bridge. And I saw this in a marriage of some family friends as I was growing up. I was a young teenager or so. This couple was very close to our family. And so they interacted with us often. And it was always interesting to me. And I was, not as refined as we are in the Lord now, but I was a kid. I was 12, 13, 14 years old. And I watched this marriage dynamic with this couple. And I didn't understand it as a child. I didn't understand it in my youth. I'll be honest with you. I'm maybe still catching up with some elements of it. But this is what would happen. One of them, specifically the wife, I should say, had this fear, this terrible fear of going over bridges. And they would drive from where we lived in rural Pennsylvania out to the Midwest. I'll just say it that way, out to the Midwest, about an 8-9 hour drive. And in this 8 or 9 mile drive, what would happen was the husband would do the driving, the wife, in her fear, would just go to sleep. And he would drive for these multiple 8-9 hour trips. But he would do so in a way where he never had to go over a bridge because his wife had gephryophobia. She was deathly afraid, terribly afraid of going over bridges. And as a kid, I always thought that was weird. I would say, again, you got to keep me in prayer here, guys, but I would say, if I'm driving, I would say we have to get there the shortest way. Right? Maybe we would even, think, you go to sleep, you wake up, we'll get there. But if I'm driving 8 or 9 hours, maybe I'm going to go over bridges because I need to get there the fastest way instead of taking country back roads and going over, out of the way for miles and miles on end. But then as I get older, as I think more about it, think about the grace of the Lord, we're reminded we have a choice. Because what that husband was actually doing, as a teenager, I thought it was weak. I thought it was not the thing to do. I didn't understand it. Maybe even now, maybe there's some alternatives, maybe some other ways that could have been handled. But in that specific case, what that husband was doing was he was honoring his wife. He was making a choice. That's a good opportunity to get angry. I got to drive extra miles because you have this thing going on. But isn't that what love is? Isn't that what grace is? Isn't that what marriage is all about? Realizing where we are, where our spouse is, and loving them where they are rather than insisting on our own way. I'd love to hear from you. You can email me, edward@elevateyourmarriage.com, and tell me what you think about that. But that's what this husband did. That's what this husband did. He drove for extra hours, extra miles, just so his wife could be at ease. Just so his wife could be at peace because she had this terrible fear of going over bridges. If it was me, I would have chosen a more contentious route. I would have gone the way that got us there the fastest way. I mean that as a pun, that pun is intended, right? But let's think about that. Where can we make choices in our marriage relationship today where rather than stirring up strife, we can keep the peace? You have a choice. Hey, I'd love